Namaste. Welcome. This is the last revelation. You've made it, or you haven't. All right.
Yeah, that's my cue. And interestingly enough, the last 3 or 4 days have been the most particular ordeal for me of the program yet. It always is right on cue for these revelations. And really, it's for me been a case of my physical body not being able to hold up with the pace of transformation, which I fully expected to happen. I'm surprised it's held up as well as it has, actually. But I was just lying down and taking some rest this weekend, and I literally felt like that first amphibian that crawls up on the shore and is in an environment that its lungs are not yet suited for, a hostile environment. I mean, the feeling for me has been one of asphyxiation, and literally feeling like my organs were torn out of my abdomen. And I was just being with that because I had no choice but to be with it. And it struck me what good preparation for dying it was. I mean, all that was left for me to do was to turn my attention inward and to surrender. Just to be with that sensation and then to abide in the eternal reality that lives me in all of us. Same way you would do in a hospital bed when you realize the world is, too much for your senses and you don't have that capacity. So this has been my process, and to some extent it still is, but right up to an hour ago, it started to, the most intense aspect of it started to let up. And I was fully prepared to come here. I made some notes to help me today, in that state of having to pull each word out of that opened carcass, in a sense. But what I realized is, the ordeal that I've experienced to come to do my part in today's talk is lightening up a little bit so that I can do it. And what I've learned to do when this sort of thing strikes me is to lean back into the current that lives me. And I feel like it's a nice opening for the topic of today, which is manifestation. Because when I was feeling this, it struck me as like, this is that condition that the mountaineers call being in the death zone. When you're high up at Camp 4 and your body actually can't live there. And you might think it's bad news, but it's actually what you as a mountaineer and you as a yogi train for. Your entire intention is to put you up in the death zone because it's where the opportunity is greatest to true yourself. And it's only from that death zone that you can reach the summit. So you really, when this hits me, I have to dig deep. I really have to grind it out. And I know that if I lean back into the arms of my purpose, an energy beyond the physical will come in and I will be spoken. I will offer myself up as an instrument and divine will come through, to the best job it can do with this flute, with its imperfections and its clogged parts, and the song will play. And when we come to the state of manifestation, it is the purpose that lives us. We live for the purpose, and the purpose is what's living us. The purpose is what we've become and continue to become, and the purpose is what carries us. And we all have this choice to give ourselves over to a process and a will far greater than our own, with at times a logic and a sequencing that makes absolutely no sense to us as individual beings. But really, this opportunity to take the individual will and to offer it to divine will is the sacrifice of manifestation that we make again and again and again and again. It's not like we give ourselves once to this purpose greater than ourselves. It's a continual giving, at least until there's no separation left between us and divine. So one of the things that I've always loved about this path is the fact that getting to the summit, which you might say is one's individual attainment, one's individual liberation or realization, is just the start of the journey. You come to discover that it's much more difficult to get down a very tall, icy, inhospitable mountain in a state of your body being torn apart than it was to get up in the first place. And it's really once you've come to your own liberation that you're actually useful to the universe. So what I've always loved in this path is the fact that one's individual attainment and liberation is just a means to an end. It's just a means for the universe to have another instrument or a channel to do its work through. And of course, that too is a giving over and a sacrificing of what you might still hope to get out of being here. So I think too, in manifestation, you're asked to take a greater responsibility. You're asked to take responsibility for the divine being that you are. And the fact that for each and every one of us, there are souls who are waiting for us. They're waiting for the opportunities that we will bring for them to reflect their divinity back to them, to lift them up out of the bondage that is not yet apparent that it's self-created. It's the same way the planet is waiting for each of us. I mean, it's waiting by dying, but it's still waiting for each of us to answer the call. And something I've been thinking about a lot. There are these two verses in the Gita, and the first was something Satyapriya shared to the Gita team, and it's one of the deep pleasures of being on that team is that we get to receive the Gita reflected through the prism of each of our unique consciousness. And so when I was really ground down and I was like, I'm going to have to lean on my purpose to get through this, I happened to read this verse in chapter 3, verse 154, and it says, your own path, even if devoid of apparent merits, is better than others that appear to you to be easy. It is better to face death while pursuing your own path than to follow another's path. It may be fraught with danger. And what was in that for me today was the resoluteness of my purpose, is that, in fact, I am fully resolved and willing to die in this process. I don't mean that it will happen here today. Really, the purpose of the death zone is to survive. You know, it's not a very good mountaineering documentary if they die up that high. The point is for the universe, you know, is for you to pull through so you become useful and can perform the work that's given to you. But this other thing about divine responsibility, your responsibility as a divine being, I'll just share this. It's this verse in chapter 11. You'll know it well. Therefore, Arjuna, stand up and attain fame. Having conquered the enemy, enjoy the prosperous kingship. By me alone, they have already been killed. Hence, be a mere instrument. You know, Krishna, he's there speaking as time, the destroyer of the worlds. And the reason why this verse keeps coming back to me is I hear different people talking about it and things like it as though what it's saying is that there's this fate and destiny and predetermined aspect of the Gita that's just got to, of life, I mean, that's just got to dance itself out. And I feel like I was saying last time, that's only one half of the polarity. The other half is that we as divine beings have the same power as Krishna. We have the power of choice. We have the power to choose to perform our responsibility, our duty, our role. And Krishna can't compel us to do that. It's only when we take our will and we merge it with divine's will, like the two hands of a prayer, that we become an instrument. And make no mistake, being an instrument is endless action. It's endless work. So it's just what bothers me about what I've heard about this is it's like, oh, don't worry about the peril. You know, Krishna's killed them all already. I hear things like that. And to me, there's a misunderstanding there, where scripture is being used to reinforce the limitations of the ego. Because if you really realize the full arc and trajectory of the Gita, you realize God's not outside you. Krishna's not outside you. You are God. You are the Lord. You are the source of the entire creation, which created even fate and destiny. And keep in mind that Krishna and the Gita is an intervention in consciousness. It's a force of truth, love, and ananda that comes from beyond the creation to change the trajectory and the fabric of it. So really, we need to call ourselves up to this divine possibility. It's not like there's a Krishna that's going to do it for us. That's why it's so important that we become that divine principle he represents, especially now when not one Krishna is needed. I mean, one Krishna could barely handle the Mahabharata because all of the Pandavas, they would never follow what he said. They'd promise things to him and then they'd still go on. They're doing the same thing. Even after the war ended, Arjuna, he turns to Krishna in the chariot and said, can you tell me the Bhagavad Gita again? I don't remember it so well. And it's like the one time Krishna, he just says, you know, Arjuna, I'm a little disappointed you asked that. The answer is no. And he tells him a different version. But I think too, right, that you can't help but hold manifestation as action. You know, for example, if I look at my role in helping to create this course, manifestation is taking action that you don't know how to do. It's taking action that makes you uncomfortable. It's taking action that exposes you, you know, often in a context of people who have a clearer realization or an attainment than me, but I'm the guy sitting up in the chair and I get to hold that. You know, really action that's manifestation is when you go beyond your limits. You true yourself to your purpose and you leap to create an opportunity or a possibility or a reality that didn't previously exist, but which gives yourself and others the opportunity to more fully inhabit, embody, and own the divine that you are. So it's when I think of manifestation these last weeks and months, it's so helpful to have the right context. I mean, at this point, I know that what manifestation means is holding unworkability and negativity. It means holding my own, other people's, you know, whatever I'm open to beyond that. It inevitably comes up. I mean, manifestation is basically endless problem solving, holding of obstacles, challenges, because more is being asked of you. In manifestation, you can't help but experience cycles of dejection and defeat. I can't tell you these last 4 days when I was just reduced to quite a disabled state at times, what I had to meet in myself. You know, is that structure of negativity, you know, that Satsang spoken of being there for an orientation to life for lifetime. Defeat, hopelessness, anger, hostility, rage. It's like all of the horrors of the fun house come out and are being experienced. And really what served me was remembering what Satsang said last time when he was talking about meeting the darkness, that if we can hold it from that causal state, if we can hold it from the eternal light of our consciousness, then it can play. The mirrors can show their distortions and everything's there, but we're not lost in it. We're not totally identified. You know, the Thomas is there, but it's not the truth. It's having its chance to express, and in expressing itself to burn itself out. So the other thing that, I mean, you're going to experience in manifestation that I've experienced in spades in the last few days is diminishment. In my case, it's taken the form of my body giving out to a certain extent. But just knowing that that's there too helps to hold it as grace when it comes. And it gives you that ability to persist through it all, to grind it out into, as the Gita says, and Shree loves to remind us almost endlessly of, to endure calmly if we're able, but just to endure. And when you look at what is it that enables you to do this, again, it's purpose. It's that which lives you. And when you look at what fuels purpose, we're back in day 2 of the 9-day, when Shree refined his mission as being here for 100 million generations. It's love that fuels the purpose. Love for creation, love for humanity, love of the original intent, and the precious opportunity that exists on this planet, in this dimension, for consciousness to wake up to itself, and for matter and spirit to come to a true marriage and integration. That's what I have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really a case of surrender all to me. That when you come to the place where you're up against it, like Latas is sharing, this be able to tap into another way to be with yourself is what the manifestation process is teaching us. So I've been listening to the small groups. I know Satas's story is not the only story. And I know that it is the nature of this attempt, this reach to bring forward the Gita in this new light for this time of peril, with this very, very seemingly high goal in terms of what could be possible. So we're with what could be possible in this program. And now we're in a very interesting place. This place is right where you are. This place is not different than where we started. This place is simply the other side of this particular ordeal, by which you can begin to get the reality of why you're here right now, of what it is that's been living you already, what it is that's been defying your life ever since you awakened. So I know exactly what Satas feels. It takes 22 years to develop a taste for the poison, but I've developed taste for poison, as even Satchamayi begrudgingly is learning to develop a taste for poison. It is the nature of the work, because the human body is limited. It only has certain orientation. It's only used certain muscles. It's only developed certain capacities. So it gets dragged along in the process, trying to keep up with that higher quality of what we bring. But I really felt we should kind of look to see a larger context for right now. The nature of this chapter is the yoga of Moshka. Moshka yoga, the yoga of liberation. Now, everybody loves the idea of liberation, right? The only problem is we only know liberation within the little domain of our comfort zone. We're not familiar with what liberation would look like if we were actually actualizing all the possibilities of what we are, meeting all the opportunities of life for that possibility to manifest. It's like we don't have often an opportunity to even consider this possibility of being the supreme being, because we don't have the opportunity. How lucky are you, Arjuna, for having this opportunity to fight for a right cause? It will take you to the gates of heaven. So the presenting this is the key part. Now, what is it about this teachings, of which the Gita is an important part of? And I'd like to bring it back to some basic orientation principles by which we hold this work. The aim of this yoga, the uniqueness of this path, recognizes and accepts the world as a manifestation of the divine power, not its rejection as a mistake or an illusion. And second, the character of this manifestation as a spiritual evolution, with yoga as the means for the transformation of mind, life, and body into instruments of spiritual and supramental perfection. This was Sri Aurobindo, an extract from his Integral Yoga. The basic premise that's different from all other yogas is that the arena where this awakening that we've had takes us to the fulfillment of that possibility, to the actualization of that possibility, lies in our lived life, lies in the arena of the life we are living right now. And what it says is, it's not like you can't do manifestation until you're done. In fact, you're manifesting, you've always been manifesting. Every human being manifests the human consciousness. Every awakened being manifests the awakened consciousness. Every godlike being manifests the God consciousness. And every supreme being manifests the supreme consciousness. It's what happens, like a flower gives off a scent. A tree shades you from the heat of the sun. It's a quality of your consciousness that determines the field of your arena. And so where is that field? Well, it's right there with those parts of you, the human part of you, your awakened part of you, the part of you who has been able to live aligned with that awakening, or partially or somewhat well, and the part of you that's moving into relationship with the universe, coming out of your individuality and moving into worship. See, the power of worship, the power of devotion, is the expression of the current in the creation. Truth manifest is worship, love. And this becomes the motive. This becomes the current in which we evolve our awakening into more and more integrated qualities of being, where matter is included with our awakening. The awakening enhance and awakens matter, and they each awaken each other in the unfolding of this evolutionary opportunity in consciousness, but also in matter. This process at every stage, every frequency of the possible states of consciousness we're speaking of, we are manifesting. You're manifesting right now. Sat Das shared his story. It was just like blasted with the force of his own ordeal, coming forward and giving such a focus of and demonstration of his purpose and how he's throwing himself, dragging along his dead body in every step of this program. But this is unique to Satas. Everyone has their ordeal. I know that love is the inspiration, is love for this path, this love for me, this love for this work, this complete willingness to die in the course of the unfolding is a rare capacity. And it doesn't get tested until it has an opportunity to manifest itself, like Satas is now. So if he wasn't doing this work, his body would be able to catch up for some time, but then he would be impatient. He wouldn't be able to tolerate just waiting around for his body to catch up. That's his nature. But we do want that. We want to learn to bring the body in. We want to learn to bring our life in to this whole process. So this is the uniqueness. The Gita is pointing to a journey. And as this point, we're at a place of summary. We're a place where all the pieces are coming together. And now we're going to speak a little bit about what it means to live free. what it means to live in freedom. It's not freedom. It's not freedom like the human vital would want freedom. It's not freedom like our human ego would want freedom. It's liberation. Liberation from any preconditions for that freedom to manifest. The ability to be free to be with whatever arises. The ability to be able to be open to the possibilities that life is constantly showing you the next thing. So what's the key parts of this 18th chapter? First, it's a summary of what we talked about. We've moved from the conversation of the 13th chapter, where the body and the field, the knower of the body, are being revealed. And from there, we stepped into recognizing this principle of these three modes of Prakriti and Purusha, and that these modes are keeping the whole universe unfolding. And then we entered into this introduction, this showing of this vast matrix of creation that comes from above and from below and tangles into a web by which we cannot know what is truth or untruth. It's unknowable. We can only act with the act of dispassion, discernment, not having an investment. Then we enter into this arena. From the 15th, we've introduced ourselves to this glorious condition, which we can see the entire matrix that holds everything, including the gunas, the nature of the matter, the nature of the body, ourselves as the knower, and its aspects and its qualities have been revealed to us. We understand that us as human forms is something that travels between lifetimes. Once again, like in chapter 2, you're the soul. Well, you are now that which takes the senses and the mind and the ego as a perfume's following its source between this life and the next. It begins to show the fullness of the path of discernment, of discrimination, of effort that came in the first 6 chapters, and now into this path of worship, this passive devotion, where all the effort is taken away, and now the universe is what we're learning is now taken over our evolution, and we're simply learning to surrender to it with greater and greater capacity to ride its current, and in the process experience more devotion, more passion for this to manifest, more longing to long, to more worship to worship. And there's this whole principle strips away those structures of ourselves as doers, structures of ourselves built on the old paradigm of our embodiment and our ego in our early awakened stage and our previous spiritual experience. And now we're confronting the universe every single day at different times, where it's showing us itself in its light and dark aspects. We are being prepared. The universe is preparing us for the liberation, for the true yoga of freedom. In this process, then we come to a certain capacity, we meet the dark forces. We see them. We don't see them out of fear. We don't see them out of reaction. We don't see it out of needing to fix them. We recognize that quality in the creation, in other people, in ourselves. We begin to find the fundamental archetypal structures of darkness that was inherent in the possibility of consciousness rising out of matter. We begin to experience them both within ourselves and in the collective consciousness and the people around us. And we begin to recognize that we're being introduced. We're being introduced to a domain that normal human beings never have to meet, never have to know, even though they're often unwitting instruments or veiled by these obscuring Ashuric and Rajasic forces. Then we step out of that introduction into the 17th chapter. In the 17th chapter, the strongest guidance that Krishna has is you must be constantly purifying your system. You can't ride on the roller coaster of what's brought you to this point, because now you're a grown up. Now you've met the darkness. Now you've met the peril. Now you have to start catching up with what it is that's been happening all along. You've gone beyond the enthrallment of devotion in chapter 12, and now you're in the revelatory unfolding of this devotion for all of creation, and in the process, discovering the creation's devotion for you. Once you go beyond your awakened self and you start entering the God plane, you start realizing you have a relationship with all of existence. Everything living, everything in existence is seeking to be related to you, and you are learning to be related to it. And what it's asking of you, what it's inviting you to be, is the object of their worship, the Lord of their sacrifices. And in this stage now, what is being asked is that you still have a little human that's been dragged down into this vast possibility of becoming. And all along in the Gita, it's been speaking to a purpose. And what was the purpose in the Gita? The peril at the end. Arjuna was going to be leaving this moment of revelatory enthrallment and teaching and enter into the Mahabharata, the battlefield. So the purpose was there as the underlying theme all along, was to prepare Arjuna for battle. Is to make him as much Krishna-like as possible so that he could become an instrument and channel out into life. Now, in fact, every one of you who have been with me for some time, this is what's been happening to you. You are the current purposeful current, is this sense of the evolutionary opportunity that's trying to actualize itself through you. This evolutionary opportunity for consciousness, but also this extraordinary transformative evolutionary possibility for your body to be a co-creator with this arising quality of being, ultimately towards the supreme being that you're becoming, and to be in causality, as Satya said, to be able to own, this is what's happening. I'm not just being blindly taken along to the current of the ocean. I'm asked to take a hand on the rudder of the direction of the creation. I'm being asked to play a role in the shaping of what's coming, to be able to use the innate powers that we as human beings have to attend, to be aware, to have a choice, to discern, to recognize this versus that. These human powers are actually latent in our human being, but now we're at the place where we're discovering that these were divine powers all along that give us ability to create a new paradigm, a new context, to set an intent, to take actions aligned with that intent, to persevere in the persistence of that intent, even when we feel exhausted or defeated or we're dragging the body along. It begins to show that we were all along this thing we were becoming. We were just asleep. We were just hiding out. We were just recovering from our last ordeal that we didn't want to be with, or that we created ourselves. We human beings distract ourselves by creating endless, meaningless ordeals that have no purpose. They don't go anywhere. They may seem important, but they are not aligned with the purpose, the true purpose of what is now happening to you. At this point, Gita, the purpose of your life is so in your face, there's no place to hide. No place to retreat to, not in terms of the possibility that's before you. It's always a movement from what was small to what is larger, to what was previously not capable to that which is capable, that which previously didn't understand to that which can understand more fully. This is the process. And every step along the way, when you look from the 18th chapter back, you can see that you've been doing this all along on your journey. You've been making choices. You've been stepping back and witnessing the structure that's been running you. getting a little authority over it so that you could withdraw your consent and not go down the rabbit hole. And in that, get some capacity to be the supporter of that needed to be shown, to be seen, and to start taking new actions based on the revelations of that are coming out of your consent and your support. And at some point, that which you couldn't be with becomes another whole piece of enjoyment, a whole nother arena of freedom that wasn't there before, a place to be with yourself and your issues, the things you never thought you could have. They all become arenas of the unfolding of you. And because of the state of this Gita path, your consciousness, your paradigm, the vibrational field that you're operating from, though it may be an echo of you as a younger stage, is now impacting people around you. In fact, it's impacting unlimited numbers of people in a collective consciousness to very extent, even though they may not know it. If you're a human being, maybe you impact 200 people. If you're an awakened being, you're likely to impact up to 10,000 people. As you develop enlightened in the awakened being, and as you start moving into the higher planes of consciousness, by the time you got to the God state, tens of millions of people are being impacted by you, even though you may not have them physically around you. You're having this comparable effect so that your own choices are affecting their choices. This is Krishna saying, if I cease to act, I'm always acting. If I cease to act, the world order will fall apart. It is this recognition that comes that by doing what you're already doing, you're empowering mankind to reestablish Dharma, to come back into order, to come out of the disorder. Each person finding a path forward, even if they may not understand it. Maybe they see it in something on YouTube and they say, oh, wow, look at that. That had just come up for me. Now I understand. Oh, I got it. You mean I have a choice? I can make a difference. Oh, this is my issue with my relationship. It's not their issue. I'm making it my issue. There's all kinds of revelatory possibilities start opening up by us continuing this yoga, this particular path where matter and spirit are learning to join together through their powers operating in us human. We as the intermediary becomes the means that the spirit descending from above can respond to the cry from below and become integrated in us. We become the means by which the next stage of the evolution of matter becomes possible. And coincidentally, the opportunity of matter, of consciousness and matter to evolve as well. We begin to shift paradigms in the domain of this reality, which is, by the way, the testing ground of creation. It is by here that spirit becomes real. It becomes tangible in space and time and cause and effect and consequences and lessons and failures and successes. Only here can you suffer. Only here can you be limited. Only here can you be overtaken. And this is why we choose to come here, because this is the testing grounds. This is the field. This is the endless Mahabharat of the unfolding of the possibility that we human beings can become aware of and learn to live aligned with. If there's another place on the universe, it hasn't shown up in the physical universe. I know they exist in subtle universes. But the principle of what we are on this planet and what is possible now and what we're speaking of is the primal organizational purpose of existence. When you begin to live alignedness, it becomes more clear to you what it is that you're doing, what it is that's happening, and what it is you are. And that gives you the freedom. That gives you the power to create new realities. It gives you the power to learn whatever remaining piece of the darkness that you are still unwittingly carrying and use that as an opportunity to open the space for that very structure that's embedded in the 7.4 billion people on the planet. We become the means by which we can lift others who do not have the capacity to lift themselves. And what is that? It's worship. It's love. It's a power that takes us beyond our capacity for commitment, beyond our capacity for endurance. It takes us out of pain and pleasure. It takes us out of expectation. It takes us beyond the little petty fulfillments of our desire nature, or our need nature, or our want nature, or our attachments and our clinging. And it shows this huge, most truer, greater capacity to be, and what it means to be alive, to have a body, to be able to have enough health and resources to participate with other people who are engaged in the same process. It's a fucking miracle. Be a guarantee. It's a fucking miracle. But it may not feel like a miracle. It might feel like a nightmare. It may have, but these won't last. They will begin to be burned out in the rising sun of your day. They will be burned out. The body will catch up. It will gather the strength. It's assured. Just stay connected to this purpose. Still keep purifying your system, coming to those structures. In the 18th chapter, sacrifice, charity, and austerity. So we continue to strip away the thing in us that wants it different. It describes it as the sannyasi and the tyaga. The sannyasi gives up desire. The tyaga, more powerfully, gives up outcome. But they're both needed. The desire will automatically fall away the more you're a tyagi and take actions without investment, without expectations, without hope, without need for hope, without need for payoff, without want, without desire being the organizing purpose for your action. What then acts? What then manifests is going to be this current of the universe for humanity. It's going to be this love that knows no bounds. It's going to be for you. The sacrificing of your little self becomes the sacrificing for all selves. We become something much greater. And in that, our river, our creek, expands and expands until it includes all rivers and creeks, in which all the rivers and creeks are coming. We become the ocean. And from the ocean, all things that arise become us, become what we are. The perception is there are no dark forces. There is only me. There's only this. There is only that. As in the tail end of the 17th chapter, uttering the word taught and experiencing and expecting no reward, performing acts of sacrifice, charity, and austerity, the seekers aspire for liberation. What is this saying? It means that taught means thisness. Oh, it's this. When you go and have this pleasure, this pain, this difficulty, this obstacle, this problem, this issue, this opportunity, this possibility, this, and you act accordingly, then you become the enjoyer. You become out of the witness, the consenter. You become the enjoyment of the becoming. And when you're in the enjoyment of the becoming, you're already a version. If you are the great Lord at that point, and you are becoming that which holds it all. So it's all a process of becoming more liberated. 18th chapter it's through the engagement in that which is bound that we become more and more moshka, liberated, beyond doership, beyond desire or need, because something else is living us. And it's not just this fierce clarity and awareness. It's this huge love. Divine love, unconditional love. But it's not just a blissful, peaceful place. This has a transformative power. This has a ability to enter into matter and convert matter into something more like spirit. It has a transmutative force that works first in our body, but then works in the bodies of who we work with. We become an agency and means by which the Supreme can fulfill its purpose, which is to manifest the unlimited opportunities, possibilities of existence, to bring forward the endless diversification, to allow for an evolutionary movement in matter, where the Asat can join back with the Sat, and the Sat can know itself as the Asat, where these two principles that were once separate can come together. And where do they come together? In each of us. To have the freedom, have the capacity to develop the muscle, to have the discernment, to be able to commit, to endure the process. This is what the Gita is saying. You're doing this not just for you. You're doing it for everyone you're connected to. You're doing it for all the suffering beings caught up in matter and not knowing the possibility that they are. You're doing this for the world. You're doing this for the million generations yet to be born. The 18th chapter has so much information that is so practical and so relevant to understand the very structure using the intelligence. It's creating this intelligent companion to the realization. It's giving you information about the nature of how these gunas that we've been talking about off and on in the Gita, but especially in chapter 14, how they, and 17, how they work. In the 17, it's about the food. There's food that's sattvic. There's food that's rajasic. There's food that's tamasic. You're getting educated. Your intelligence is getting educated. And it lets you know that when you eat, when you turn to the sattva, the manifestation becomes more easy, more joyful, more helpful, more expanding, more effective. So it speaks of that in everything. The sattvic knower versus the rajasic knower versus the tamasic knower. The sattvic action versus the rajasic action versus the tamasic action. The sattvic doer versus the rajasic doer or the tamasic doer. And we know that there is only one doer. The one doer is Prakriti doing for the Supreme. The Supreme itself doesn't act. It's the Prakriti in us, the content of our personhood, our ego, our limitations and our strengths, our geniuses, our unique characters become that doer, become that knowledge, become that capacity for action. Then it forms us the nature of the intelligence, the sattvic intelligence, the rajasic intelligence, the tamasic intelligence, the nature of the sattva intelligence, fulfilling its, the recognition of the knowing and the recognition and the understanding. And the rajasic has seeking something to make something happen. And the tamasic that just doesn't understand how it works. And it's not saying they're wrong. They're saying these are just three modes. Three modes, and every one of you, even when you're in sattva, will go through the rajas and tamas guaranteed. We will all have these cycles. You can follow the moon cycle. You can follow the cycle of the earth around the sun. You can follow the cycles of the current movement of the entire solar system around the center of the galaxy, and so on and so forth. The cycles upon the cycles. You begin to see, sattva, tamas, rajas, sattva. You begin to discover they're showing up, and it informs you because you discover in the process of being informed that you can change them. They can change the gunas. By being willing to experience and be in the gunas, then if needed, you can evoke rajas in the tamas. and the tamas will become rajas. And you can inject sattva into rajas, and it will become more sattvic-like. And you can take cosmic, and you can make sattva more cosmic. You begin to discover that you have access to these frequencies and that you can invoke them and you can change your behavior. You can come out of your slump. You can come out of, what do you think brought Satas up out of his deathbed, right? It was cosmic. Lifted the tamas up so that it could be rajas. And then as we watched him, it became sattva. So it was this unfolding of possibilities of himself beyond the moods, beyond the previous structures that organized the Prakriti in you. And you begin to find the power of this Purusha and its freedom and its curiosity to discover and expand and explore itself. So the 18th chapter is speaking about attaining perfect perfection. It's pointing to a place where all the pieces are known to you. And it gives you the dials and the knobs and the accelerator pedal and the brake. And that allows you to come into existence free, not bound, unbound. The only constraints that are there is that let it serve humanity. Let it serve the evolutionary purpose. Let it lift people out of their error, their ignorance, into the light of at least the possibility of what even as a human being could be the next step of their evolution. Let it be for the world. Let it be for a new Dharma. And doing this, even when we get overtaken, even when we're in a long cycle of tamas or a long cycle of endless, restless rajas. Shelter yourself in me alone. This is the secret of all secrets. Take abode in me. Devotion will take you to me. All you need to do is have faith. Keep true. And take the actions that are before you. And in this way, through your ordained duty, you will attain me. Okay. I didn't cover all the points, but there are too many. We would have to have 3 sessions on chapter 18 to cover all the points. So we just take it. Welcome back, by the way. Take it now. I'd like to give you a chance to kind of step in where you are on this right now, Das, and then we'll open up to the other co-creators, trainers.
Oh, sure. I mean, I got horribly triggered. You know, it was, I felt like, oh shit, I just talked for too long at the start. And so I was just feeling intense fear and shame in my diaphragm. So I was breathing with that. It's not totally let up.
Why waste any opportunity?
Yeah. and then I was enjoying it's like I felt like I've waited years to hear further revelations of chapter 18, which I so love. I mean, there's just something, you know, but I listened to your revelations between the previous time we were here and now. They feel like old friends to me. You know, there's something there, and there's something in them too, in each of the talks where in the first one at the very end of it, you say, we do have to strive always, even if it's hopeless. I can't tell you over the years how much that nourished me, you know, because it gives a perspective for holding the defeat and the hopelessness to go forward in spite of it. And then in the second one, it's so redemptive. What you just said about the secret of secrets, you know, that all we need to do is take shelter in the inner reality, however we experience it, whether it's more awareness or love or both. And that I think what Satri says is, no matter what error we've made, you know, whatever we've done, nothing binds you, that you're free from the very beginning if you can just find it in yourself. So for me, there's that redemptive quality. And then what you are starting to unpack is, and what I've longed to hear is, it's like the technology. It's all of the pieces of the applied science of liberation in chapter 18. And when I was reading chapter 18 this morning, I was like, holy smokes, you could have a whole course about chapter 18. And wouldn't that be a delight to be part of?
I think that's what we just did. In one sense, chapter 18 is all the chapters. Yeah. All right.
So shall we open it up to the trainers?
Yeah. Let's see. Anybody else among the trainers who would like to add to this particular revelation?
First up, we have Satyadevi and Satananda.
Namaste. Welcome.
Hi. Well, Shree, during the past weeks, I've heard you speak so clearly about the extraordinary evolutionary accomplishment of the human species and the opportunity of these times. And it has opened a door for me, because I have always cared about individual human beings, but I haven't, to be honest, I haven't cared really much about the survival of the humanity. But I've come to see it with new eyes. And I realized that I'm not here to serve the humanity. I'm here to serve the divine. And that includes serving the humanity, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah. There's no, just when you find divine within yourself, you see divine everywhere. When you worship divine anywhere, you find it in yourself. The bigger the worship, the more universal you are, the more true you are to the possibility. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think it stops here.
Okay.
Yeah. Just wanting to say that it's been an amazing course and it will last for a long, long, long time. Thank you to both of you so much.
Thank you. Tatananda. Hang on. Are you on mute?
It was
there you
actually
go.
me. It was just me.
I can just say that I enjoy it so very much. It's been marvelous. Yeah.
All right. Very good.
Intense and beautiful. Yeah.
All right. Someone else? Oh, did you? Oh, whoop. Sorry.
Maybe one little thing, that when you were speaking about the dark forces, there came such a relaxation to me, and openness and expansion beyond what I could understand. It was just, finally, just like that.
That's a beautiful sign. That's a beautiful indication, Satananda, because it's I remember when I first met the Madhusudana, and it was in my teacher. He was demonstrating this mad divine Ashuric force, and I was just thrilled. It was like, wow, that's something. So every time he would yell at me, I would just be thrilled. It was like, yes, any more of that? And I believe that's the right relationship, because there's so much locked up in this whole idea of the dark or the feared or the hidden, the unknown, in the superstitious subliminal structures of our mind and vital and body. We carry these. So when we can open up to them, they begin to release a huge amount of energy that's locked up in the collective consciousness in those superstition and conspiracy theories and distrust and all the other structures, the Ashuric and demonic forces that are trying to defeat the evolution. They have a tremendous amount of power, but once they're met, that power gets converted into something that serves the evolution. It becomes freed, and we get to experience the freedom. So,
yeah,
perfect.
that is what I experienced, the freedom to recognize it in myself and others, not to be bound by it, because I've been bound by hatred towards it.
Yes, yes.
Now I can see the beauty in also that it serves in the long run. So by me it becomes another, I have another capacity to hold it and to be constructive.
It's very different than judgment. It's very different than condemning. It's very different than the repulsive anger and reaction that occurs otherwise. It becomes freeing rather than binding. And that means you are transmuting the darkness in that moment. So it's perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Janika.
Janika.
So thank you for this. I've enjoyed it so much. And something that really relates to me that you were speaking of today is there are no dark forces. The only thing there is me. And I like to relate that. And then I wrote, it is the enjoyer. Sometimes I cannot enjoy it, but I recognize it now.
Yes.
And I know it. And what came to me on the other time when Satdas was sharing about his father and that you wanted to shoot him, I can relate how I've been killing my father in therapy, in meditation, stabbing him, killing him with a shotgun, with a sword, everything. But lately, the last years, I know I'm him. I am the one that actually is diminishing myself. I am the one that is hurting myself. I am the one that is defeating myself, that I'm betraying myself. So from that perspective, there's only me. Beautiful. And when I can see that more and more in the people I meet, both the good things and the bad things and everything, it's all me. And I notice that is experiences everything is me. Then, and you can call it the enjoyer, but it's the I that is both beyond the dark and the light. This is, now I feel tears behind my eyes. This is the truth for me. This is the truth for me now.
Absolutely. And it's love. It's relief. It's the relaxation of grief and doubt, self-judgment, comparison. It's liberation. And the journey is multiple chapter 18s. It is little pieces of the same thing that chapter 18 is saying. It is what you've been doing all along. It's the life you're already living. It's the person you're already working with. It's the work you're already doing. It is me. Take refuge in me. Serve me. Serve that principle that me is pointing to. Yeah. And someday, you'll see, as you said, the me your father is yours. And once those two come together, there's no father or son. And there's both father and a son. And then you're the enjoyer. Yeah. You're enjoying because you're in freedom. You're not in an agenda. You're not in an outcome. Beautiful. Thank you, Jan.
And I would like to relate what Sadas was talking about, the bodies taking the hit. Yesterday, my system was really overloaded. I was so exhausted in the afternoon, and then suddenly I got headache. And I had 2 meetings, one chakra meeting and then the Hamsa, and I could hardly be there. I was just, it was overload. So it's,
Well, it was
I
it was
realized
beyond your vessel, beyond your container. Yes.
at that, and then I wake up in the morning completely refreshed. And it's like, thing comes deeper after these. We can call it a breakdown or something, but I call it integration. I call it something is coming together in me that is able to take on the next piece or the next level of the evolution inside.
It is the nature of the ordeal. By creating, giving, providing all of you an opportunity to put yourself into an ordeal, you then are purposefully aligned with the process, just like you described, where you're in overwhelm, where you're overtaken, where it's too much. That's evidence that you're succeeding. That's evidence that the structures that have not yet been able to evolve are being met in the consciousness that you brought and the commitment that you brought. Your ability to show up anyway in your life or in the work that you're doing is evidence of you doing the Dharma for something much more than you. And all you have to do is, you don't have to do it right. You don't even have to find words. You don't have to feel comfortable about it. You don't have to have a good outcome. You just show up. And you continue to manifest, even though you can't enjoy it at the time you're manifesting it.
Yeah. But also be honest that I said to myself, okay, I need a break. So I was watching Netflix for a couple of hours. It helped.
No one says you can't watch Netflix. We didn't have that as a restriction. It was an invitation. No, you have no, actually, you're free to choose the guidelines. That's why they're called guidelines. Or not, because sometimes you just need a glass of wine. Sometimes you just need some kind of release. It is how to travel this journey isn't by rules. It's about choosing the opportunity or not, and giving yourself enough break, because you're carrying along this human, which has this tiny little capacity. It just wants to be a creek, leave me alone. It just wants to be a little, it wants to be the river it already knows. It wants to stay the lake. Finally, it got some peace. It's now a lake. Please, please don't make me a river again. Don't make me into something more, because we're bringing this along. That's how we're evolving.
Yeah.
So the ordeal becomes the opportunity, like the peril. We create an artificial peril that accelerates our ability to be and start finding the real perils that are within us, to strengthen our capacity to meet the greater perils that are coming. Or that may come to us through others, or may come through this work, or may come through some other part or stage of your life. Very good.
So thank you for this teaching, both Satas and Shree. It's been an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been an honor for us.
Next, we have Satsang and Savitri.
All right. Namaste.
Namaste. I want to use this opportunity to bring into the space an opportunity or possibility that is being whispering for a while now, and that is, to take up the possibility of the next step of the new yoga school, to really create a vessel for beings to be in that continuous remembrance. And it feels, without any pushing or, impatience, time will tell but like a community center or a retreat center in the Netherlands, where people can join for longer periods of time. And we have such a beautiful constellation here in the Netherlands, and we have amazing manifestors, and it really feels that that's the next step. And I just want to take the opportunity to bring it into the space.
Very good. It's perfect for you, Satmanu. It is the ability to sense the opportunity and to step into it. And then it's a matter of creating the structure so that it can unfold. And that is the lesson of the 18th chapter. The capacity to further the evolution is by providing a lattice by which it can occur. And the lattice is the structure by which it takes shape in this dimension, in the dimension of mind and matter and vital and people. So the design is so critical to take the idea and make it real. And in there, you'll go through the transitions, the tests and the trials that will take you to what is the next role for you there in Amsterdam, with or without the physicality of the yoga school.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how, if the physicality of the yoga school can adapt or it needs to be abandoned for something other structure, another kind of structure.
Yeah, that's
Time will
perfectly
tell.
fine. Yeah, time will tell.
Right, received, got, thank you.
Thank you.
Honor it. Atmanu. Okay. Anyone else? Otherwise, we'll open up to the room.
Looks like there's a Ditima.
Aditima, yes.
Hi, my favorite guys. Well, I just wanted to share something very practical that I have noticed over the last months more clearly when it comes to this. And it's that when it comes to darkness and truly being here and being available, I can see that I have had a slight resistance, that I'm afraid to merge with what is difficult in myself and in others. And I can see it most clearly with the clients I have that can have personality disorders, and I can feel forces going through. I have a slight resistance. And what has really helped is that I have started to allow myself to really merge with the darkness and to really let it become me. And not said no. So there's something about being so intimate that makes me know it from another place. And I almost eat the person I'm with. So I become them for a little while. And they sometimes notice it if they're capable. And then it's almost like I get to experience and have what they have had. And I can feel the cry sometimes of their soul, something that is not possible if I'm not letting that happen. And
Beautiful.
I think I've been afraid of this because I've been afraid to lose myself. But this is the only way to be myself, it seems, truly.
Yeah. You're expanding one person at a time, You're gonna have to have a lot of clients to become what you are. But that process of merger becomes available to many people along this journey. But previously, it was threatening to the organization of the ego. And actually, the ego would be overwhelmed. So actually setting up structures not to merge became the way of surviving. So when you come to the place where your merger becomes the healing and the transmutation of what you're merging with into something truer, the echo of that old adaptation of repulsion and protection is still having to be trusted. That because it is, you eat the unpleasant meal, but then it's digested and they're shifted. And the character of their shifting is much greater than their ego personality can know, depending upon their capacity, but it will set in place, either create a pocket of soil or a place where a shoot of becoming can grow in them. So when we become aware of what we are becomes transmittable, becomes available. And what is in the way, its force eats, but it has to eat it through our system. So we become the transmuting agency of this force, sought force, into the world that accelerates any person we're with evolutionary process. We become an awakening agent. We become a transformative agent. That is what you are now. Well, you're a transformative agent. And you've been working in this field. I mean, you're doing this to support yourself. But you could, if you stopped doing this work and you started meeting with people, you would be manifesting what has come to you in a larger arena than the work. It has a role to play until we grow confident, right? What is faith? 17th chapter. 17th chapter follows the 16th. We have faith that what has come to us is stronger than our fears or our superstitions or our previous traumas and limitations. And then we discover this, Tat, this. And we become manifestation of Sat. There you go. Perfect.
Next, we have Prem.
Prem, namaste. Good to see you. You're on spot, boy. You got electricity running behind you. I can see it. You got some big energy right there.
Good Lord.
We can't hear you very well. Yeah, speak up.
You've said so much since the start that the 18th chapter is throughout, and that this dynamic tension that Satdas previously spoke of, and you giving the example of be working in the cinema where you held two roles and they became one.
Yeah, the arcs. Yeah.
And they don't actually meet. And there's a thin slice in the veil.
Fracture of the universe, yes.
It's like, this is so, it's like if I was born through this little slice. It came into this world. And it got me to this point to realize that that's the doorway. And everything else is just phenomenal.
Exactly. To live in that threshold between existence and non-existence, in the fracture.
Yes.
You got it. That's it. That's the only thing. That's the only thing to want as a spiritual being.
And I'm reminded of when I was a young person, young, and you know, the belly button that you have as a child, mine became open. It started to leak.
Wow.
And prior to that, I'd fallen off my high chair and bashed my head. And I had a big lump on my head, which had to be lanced.
Wow.
To the earth. And but this opening of the navel, I remember experiencing like I couldn't have a membrane between me and the reality. There was no
Separation.
And everything since then has been an apparent separation and an adjustment. Otherwise, it just happened.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 3 years old.
3 years. Wow. So you couldn't organize as a normal ego, a normal human being. Yeah.
I've only have an apparent tense props of presentation. That's all I have. So maybe they can be drawn down. And I have to pretend to be somebody.
Yeah. You had to make it up out of nothing. Yeah. You've done pretty good, Prem, you know, and the bottom line of it, you know what the outcome is love. So, I mean, that's your pathway. That's been your pathway all along. That's brought you to this point. Now you have everything. You now have everything. You now know what you were, what happened, and what you've been able to somehow put together and organize, kind of bits and pieces of interacting with people and kind of holding it together in this one center fracture of the universe, trying to keep it contained and keep it operating. I knew there was something about you I always loved.
Likewise.
Thank you, Peril.
Thank
There's a guy who's been living in the 18th chapter from almost birth. No, it doesn't look necessarily good, but it's very true and powerful. So thank God he was on the planet. All right, someone else. Feel free to comment on anybody's
Okay.
share. Yeah.
So we have Susanna up next.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm just seeing no one raising their hand, and I'm just going for it.
Yeah,
And
no pause.
there's-
Jump to Phil. Yep.
Yeah. And I think there's nothing else than just to share whatever I'm sitting with, and it's just this exploding feeling in my belly of joy and peace, and I also a lot of heaviness, as in I'm being pulled down, I'm being pulled here, and now obviously also the nervousness of bringing myself forward, but
Good for you. Just
yeah.
throw yourself into the cauldron.
So I don't really have anything else. I just
What more is needed? Nothing more. Leaping into the opportunity.
Yeah. So thanks for keeping providing them.
Doing this entire program has been a demonstration of what we've been talking about. Not only, the only difference is Satas has come with me, with a process usually just me and Satchmai to any extent she can stay present for it. It is this creating it. You actually convert your life into opportunities to engage in other people, with this possibility. All the small groups and all the programs are literally creating these little mini Gitas, little mini ordeals, little mini opportunities to share and to see and to discover and to remember what is the opportunity of your existence. Because we can't do this by ourselves. The thing that's holding this, of course, is the supreme manifestation. That first has been able to come through me, but it's come to many of you now, like Bhata said. One Krishna isn't going to cut it. Back then we had 17 or 24 million people. We've got 7.4 million people. One Krishna isn't going to cut it. We all have to take a little piece of that Krishna principle and put it to work if you're ready for it or not. You could be a private, a corporal, or a master sergeant or a colonel, but you are finding yourself in different arenas of battle as the course as you meet your own impossibility. This is the whole thing we're doing with New Dharma, is to create a vehicle, a structure in which you can discover how you can create a structure by which you can become the scaffolding for the unfolding of the next step of your life, the next evolutionary step of your journey. It is about perfect perfection in this path of the opportunity of integrating spirit and matter. It's not about enlightenment, although enlightenment happens. It's not about becoming free, but freedom happens. It's not about having great bliss or wonders, but great bliss and wonders happen, as well as all the other stuff, the things you wouldn't want to have happen, they also happen. And they all become converted into fodder that takes us to the next leap of our own evolution. So the questioning and the opportunity is, for me, always looking by weeds to means of taking you into a place where this becomes your lived life. And part of what we're doing with you being home in your house, most of you, is you bringing it into your life if you like it or not. Your cat, your dog, your relationship, your kids, your flowers, your angry neighbor, the thing that happens when you go to the store, your computer, it all becomes part of the fodder of remembrance, the opportunity to stay and take refuge in your purpose, take refuge in me. Let it all be an unfolding of your capacity to be in worship, to be in the wonder of what it means to be you in existence, serving a purpose for all of humanity and fall of humanity's evolutionary process for the next, let's take a stab, 1 million generations. We become the co-creators, just like Satas and just others are, Aji Shakti. We have other people joining into separate, creating formats, means by which not only they can move in their own journey, but you can all be supported in your movement, in your own journey. Krishna didn't stop working. I'm working always, he says. If I cease to work, things will go to chaos. Well, it's already been in chaos. Things will stay in chaos and get worse. So we're living to restore the natural order. We're looking to restore the Dharma. Dharma is a natural order. It is the darkness serves the light, not more darkness. Otherwise, the opportunity of evolution is stopped, lost. So we have a peril that's beyond me or Krishna or the previous books on Gita, beyond what Sri Aurobindo was saying. This peril is because matter itself was not able to hold the burden of this transition that's required. It needs to find refuge. And matter is finding refuge in our own evolution, in our awakening. It finds refuge when we align with the purpose of existence. She becomes restored. She finds the strength to come back in ways that would not be possible even by the best technological and scientific effort. She is able to bring forward her unspeakable, miraculous, multidimensional capacity to bring resolution or resources to the time of peril we find ourselves in. So we're not only restoring humanity to their Dharma, we're restoring the earth to her Dharma, the world mother to her Dharma. So within this paradigm, let every one of your days be an opportunity to once again be in touch with your liberation, or that which is resisting or opposing and obscuring it. And let's not make it so hard that we can't be sustainable. Let's find a sustainable balance where we can step by step, be it small steps or once in a while large steps, to bring this into our lives and to make it tangible. Now, some of you are ready to leap, and this structure that we're creating is so that you can leap, to go beyond and let something of the old fall away so something new can come forward in your particular manifestation, in the arena of your life. Let whatever remains be there, not because you're attached to it, because it has some utility. It has some usefulness. But whatever is there that you had been vested in before, and you find yourself no longer vested, still play its part unless it becomes a problem or starts resisting or opposing. There's no problem with enjoyment. There's nothing wrong with enjoying being a human being. Let that be there and nourish you and be as a resource for the parts of your human that is not yet able to catch up with your consciousness. Some leap fiercely. Satdas leaps fiercely. I leaped fiercely. There's some of you who are leaping, if you like it or not, fiercely. There's some of you who just show up each day and you're fiercely being taken on a ride you weren't creating. This is one of the occupational hazards of having a Satguru. It is inevitably what will happen. It's clearly an acceleration process. I listen to your small groups. My empathy goes out to you. I wish I could make it easier for you, but sorry, you're going to have to go through whatever it is you got there to go through. It is your job, it's your opportunity, and it's by depriving you of the opportunity to go through your next piece of the elephant, then I limit your ability to grow into that greater capacity you're becoming. So it is time to grow up. There is a time to grow up. Now's the time to grow up, if you ever had any doubt. Childhood is no longer a useful strategy for getting through these next decades or so. We have to become adults. We have to own our piece of it and take the action. So, but that's there aligned with bringing along and allowing yourself to grow into capacity. I'll tell you, the Gita says, you start speaking it. You start speaking the truth that you've become. You start sharing it with others and interacting with others who are trying to understand what you're speaking of. They're pulled to it, but they don't understand what you're saying. You learn to find a languaging. You've learned to find a modality. Ashish has come up with chanting as the modality. It's through the chanting that he is discovering his manifestation. Each of you, some is the World Peace Meditation, 108 days nonstop. There's other people who are taking challenges to find their own individual expression, to play their role. So the universe is doing it all, but we do our part too. The part of us that is still the doer is what gets evolved. It becomes a more capable doer because it's aligning with the current that's already happening. It's going in the direction the creation wishes. And when we do, the grace, the love, the support, the resources, the strength, the clarity comes so that we can. We become the willing channels, instruments, collaborators of this evolutionary unfolding of the possibility of existence.
Can I? Yeah, I would just like to speak to one corner of that, and it's that verse in the Gita that Shree referenced, that action leads to perfection. I think many of us, I know I have this very strongly, we tend to want the action to be perfect, and it often hamstrings us where we don't take it. I know one of the greatest graces for me was I was conscripted or drafted into, before there was an AV team, there was me taking regular beatings. And it was such an assault against my perfectionism because I had no idea what I was doing. And I was operating equipment in the Bermuda Triangle of Shree's energy field. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I endured public humiliation. And humiliation where I had no idea what would go wrong. And it was so hard for my strong mental and intelligence, like the way I always related to life, to just be thrown into total incompetence. But when I was reading that verse and hearing Shree speak of it, it's actually the great blessing, is that if we take the action now, it's actually the accelerant. It's the catalyst that leads to the perfect perfection. Rather than, I know for me, perfectionism, it's just been a survival mechanism. That if I could just have it buttoned down and not evoke anyone's anger, then I would get through the day. But what's asked of us now in this time, and the more truly we align to our purpose, is to make an offering of our safety even, to make an offering of our security, and to allow ourselves to appear naked and vulnerable, like what happened for me with feeling intense fear and shame being up here, and actually really kind of rattling my faculties. But see, that's an accelerant, that's a catalyst, that's a form of grace that takes all of us to that ideal that the Gita is pointing to. We can't all be on the AV team, right? So we got to cook it up somehow.
Yeah. My teacher had me chant. I was a person who could pronounce anything, barely figured out how to speak English correctly, little less Sanskrit. So, and he had me, I was chanting every day. I was the guy doing it, half a year, continuous 1,000 names, blowing it, never. Indians in the audience would cringe as they heard me mispronounce the names. I was just helpless having to show up each day doing like what my trauma would never want me to do. And it was the greatest blessing. There was like a coup d'etat where everybody, a whole group of people came from the West, and he demonstrated to the whole room how not to chant by having me try to chant what he just chanted. And after a while I said, I can't hear it. I don't know what I'm saying. I can't do this. I don't have anything in me that can organize around this in front of all these new people that had come from the West. So, it was this opportunity of going beyond myself that actually proved to be the entry point into karma yoga, into, my God, the more I lose, the more I get. The more I fail, the more I win. I broke out of the paradox of me having to do it for it to work. So.
There's something so enlivening when you tell a story like that. Exhilarating. You see people's responses because you're getting a taste of that freedom that lies on the other side of the barrier.
Yeah, that was liberation. When I was no longer an issue, because I was in there and I was just, I was surrendered. I was defeated. I was perfectly happy to be there, defeated. And everybody in the room who afterwards said, my God, how could you be with that? It was like, I don't know. I've been living with this guy for 3 years. This is what I had to learn. So it is the ordeal for something greater. Now, I had a physical guru. I didn't have any other place to go to. And I would get the value from chanting, even though it sounded to other people terrible. That's when I discovered all I had to do was have the intent, and that I make the noise approximately, and the universe forgave me. It gave me all the grace. That was my secret. I never told him that because he had perfection issues with chanting. By the way, I've heard he was not a good chanter, but he commanded everyone to chant a certain way. So, but the principle here is the opportunity to be undone. The opportunity is to be undone because your ego won't do it. You got to have something that you create or something bigger than yourself that does it. And then you discover liberation, that you can't be bound, that it's all enjoyment. There's no worry about outcome, no need for security or reassurances. You become the reassurance. You become the refuge.
Okay, people are lining up.
All right, let's just go.
Next is Shree.
Shema, just back from Kentucky, I understand.
South Dakota.
South Dakota, all right, that's right.
Yeah, it was snowing.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, so thank you for this amazing course. It's so funny. Satdas, when you were speaking in the beginning, I was just like, oh, I can so relate to that, and I can so speak to that, and I really wanted to share about that, and now I just don't even remember anything what I was going to say about it. But I just really wanted to connect with you, Sat Shree, from what I've just been going through. My father-in-law just passed away in South Dakota, and I was there for like 4 or 5 days. And, everything you're speaking about is so relevant to that right now, because I was debating, Tim, my husband, was already out there with him and his family before he passed. And I was like, I don't really have to go out there. I went through this, just like Dot was saying, I so appreciate you saying that even how I perceive you and people who are so advanced still go through the diminishment and the dejection, and we're not above it. We don't move above it, because I was like, if I go, I know I'm not going to get both my daily meditations in. I'm not going to do my daily world peace meditation. I'm going to be so busy, and I'm not going to have the opportunity or the privacy to do all these things that I want to do. My whole practice will be shot. Satri will be so disappointed in me that I'm not able to, really maintain my practice and be dedicated to this. It was ridiculous. And I was just like realizing the balance between practice on your meditation cushion and the practices, and practice in real life. I'm like, no, this is life. This is manifestation. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, is bringing it in to be there for family and to bring that higher energy in and let it manifest through me. So it was such a good lesson in practice that I did a little bit. I wrote my mother book. I wrote, when I could, the Gita. I did a little meditation. I couldn't do half of what I do when I'm at home, but it made me stay so connected every minute that I was with the family within, which is the true practice, the manifestation, to bring it into your life and do it. So it was really, really powerful once I got past that point of diminishment or feeling like I'm doing something wrong by blowing off my practice to go do something else. So it's very relevant to what you're speaking about right now. Manifestation is the practice as much as doing the actual practices on our meditation cushion.
Practice is practice. The real thing is your lived life. The practice prepares us for living life. So then the practice is no longer needed. Water everywhere. What's the use? What's the need of a well? The only reason you have practice is to give you a chance to replenish yourself so that you can go in and continue to meet life. Now, at first, we need the practice to give us a sense of security, to allow us to keep connecting to what it is that we have, so we can feel assured, feel secure in what we've come to. And so it is a consolation to be able to have that as a resource to tap into. But when you get thrown into life with circumstances, either your own or because you commit to something, then that becomes the practice. Ultimately, the Gita is karma yoga. Every chapter has yoga, which is purposeful action, in its title, right? The yoga of dejection, the yoga of discrimination, the yoga of liberation. These yogas can only are the means by which these become real. Action is how we make it real. I know how it was for me. It was once my teacher threw me into seva, so much seva, that I had hardly any time to go into the States. The States kept building behind me. They became this monstrous force where I couldn't even see out of my eyes or show up, and I was getting sick and having things come out of my body that I had no idea how they got there in the first place. It was this just event that was starting to happen because I was carrying so much force in the actions that I didn't have a time to catch up with it. And that's what pushed me into complete important transitions, where I was beyond myself. And that's why when I listen to the small groups and I hear people saying it's too much, of course it's too much. Of course, it couldn't be. If this was the real thing, it couldn't but be too much, because it's always going to be more too much in order to discover what is still to be two, something that's trying to become enough. We're becoming enough when it's too much. Every time we're enduring the process of being overtaken by circumstances or events or obligations and not able to keep up with it, or have no faith in yourself to be able to speak to people in the room, right? And what's remarkable is how many people are willing to talk even when they say, I have nothing to say. You know, it's this discovery of how to keep showing up, how to keep bringing yourself forward. Others help support you in discovering that capacity. That whatever you are, it's just a moment of experience that's then going to change inevitably, because it does inevitably change. Everything is changing. You're changing, your mood's changing, your beliefs are changing, your ideas of what you need to do next are changing. If they're not, then you're carrying some pattern of the past that's preventing you from being able to go into what you're becoming. So Shree, this whole part of you about doing it right doesn't need to be applying to your spiritual life and actually to your human life as well. Just show up. It's the circumstances you find yourself in. And watch. I'm watching you. You're doing everything anyway. Whatever in you that's doing everything is sincere and true in her purpose. She's wanting the best for everyone. She's wanting the best for the world. Let that be your organizing principle, and just get over the perfection part of it. Because it's perfect without you knowing it. The sincerity assures its perfection. So you didn't show up when they wanted you to show up and they're angry at you, or they're judging you for not being a better relative. So what? Their problem, not yours. Liberation is a sweet elixir. It is a sense of freedom for them to be just like they are and you to be just like you are. No right, no wrong, no guilt. But you have this organizing principle, and with that, everything works out. All right.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Shree.
Next, we have Maggie.
Maggie, namaste. How's another day in paradise going?
You know, good. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk about was the miracle that you mentioned. And it's so huge. I mean, I only met you 4.5 years ago, maybe, and I can remember who I was and how I perceived you and experienced the satsang. And when I started reading the video, you know, the Gita, and watching the videos, and in the higher chapters, you know, I would just go to sleep basically. And I thought, like, even chapters 6 through 8 were so huge and mind-blowing and rich that if I just connected with those, and then today, I mean, I'm having like a full-on physical response to chapter 18, which it's like I can read the last few chapters of the Gita, and it's like I can connect to a place inside me, and it's like the huge shifts that have happened, and all the content and material that's fallen away, and you know, just to receive this is such a miracle for me. Exactly. And I know it's because of the miracle in everyone that it's happening. And so that being said, it's like there has been doubt even in this huge miracle. And it's like, I want to just ask you this once. I won't ask it again. You know, is there any chance that I'm like either imagining or that my ego is inflating that this is actually real for my life and the rest of my life.
Maggie, there is nothing inauthentic in you at all. You're the most authentic being I've ever been around. If it's happening for you, it is truth. It is what it is. It is the part of you that's trying to fit in with humans that you had troubles with. Fitting in with your divine nature, it's like your territory. You're just recovering something you've had from a very young age, but now you're recovering it long after you gave up ever being able to recover it. So there is still this residue. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. That's okay. That's like the startling recognition of I can't believe it. That's what makes it a miracle, right? But it will become your ordinary life in time. It'll quiet and it'll become, of course, this is what I am, but so are you. So is everything. So is the tree. So is the ocean. It becomes serene. It'll quiet down. But right now, enjoy the miracle. Celebrate in the fact that now you're able to receive the song of the entire Gita. It means that principle that the Gita points to, the song, the purposeful song of the creation, is singing you. You don't need to have trust or belief in that. Just have faith in your own experience.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, really.
Yeah.
Next up is Devadatta.
Devadatta, namaste. Good to see you.
Namaste.
Mm.
Thank you both for this opportunity. And I would love to take an opportunity to share something what happened to me today. Last night, one of my dearest anchors passed away. My dearest grandmother. I had her in my life for 48 years. And last night she died. And what I experienced, Shree, was listening to you, and there is a lot of sadness, and there is a lot of, well, pain because of the loss. And at the same time, I truly feel so much peace. And there is like, I can really experience that although there is all the human suffering and the human pain, I really can hold it in a very new way. And I feel actually so strong and so, I would say, peaceful and powerful in a really new way. And today I had to work. I had some appointments, and it was like, it really went so well. Yeah. And although there was a lot of sadness, and I was just wondering, using the word of Maggie, it is a miracle the way I can hold it.
Absolutely.
So I really want to express that I'm so grateful. And yeah, there are no words to describe how grateful I am for having you in my life as a teacher, because it's really undescribable.
I am your refuge. I am that which allows you to discover the way of holding all of your life in yourself. I'm that principle as you are becoming. That is the ultimate refuge for all of us. So this is perfect. I'm so happy to hear this, because the emotional drama component of this would have been your old nature, and it would have incapacitated you. But you were able to come forward. Now, your whole life has been you having to go beyond your emotional nature. So that has strengthened you to discover this serene expression that peace and strength that was there all along. It just needed to be pointed out, clarified, and brought forward so you could know this for yourself. All those things we attach to had a temporary role to play. All things here are temporary. They all go. So when you can hold them and enjoy them and appreciate them, then when they go, it's a celebration. They're free to move on as you are. So this is the unfolding of the truth of life, the current of the creation, the comings and goings. It makes us wise. It makes it lived in our bodies. We know this in the toes of our feet, the end of the tips of our hair. It becomes the reality. And the rest of your life will be a deepening and deepening of the miracle of what's happening. Because you're already aligned and organized for this purpose.
Thank you. Yeah, it really resonates what you're saying, and I really can feel such huge gratitude towards having her in my life. And what you said, there is a tendency for drama, but I really cannot step into that. It's really, it feels some. Earlier you talked about being an adult and like behaving as a child or behaving as an adult, and this really feels like this is then how it feels to be an adult, a spiritual adult. And my family asked me this morning if I could speak, if I could say something about grandmother during the funeral. And I was then wondering, do you agree that this is an opportunity, like as many opportunities, to live my name, my new name you gave to me?
I believe that you don't need to say the name, but you can be the name. Whatever you say will be the Devadatta, even if Devadatta is not mentioned. It'll be a call to a possibility. So let that speak you. They don't need to know.
Yes. No, that's, I totally agree. Yeah. Thank you for all the support and for being our teacher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Next, we have Claudine.
Claudine, good to see you. We missed you. Prem got all the attention.
Yeah, I just come up because it's the most uncomfortable thing I can think of to do.
Good for you.
And I'm wondering, I don't really have anything to say, but I'll just say something. I'm wondering why in Brighton and India and other places where you were physically there, it seemed to be easy to come up, but it seems much more difficult to me like this. And I mean, apart from that on Sunday, I've been in a small group and on Monday. So when it comes to Tuesday, I feel like I've said everything, and it's kind
small
of
grouped out.
Yeah, so I don't really, and all the things I have to say seem to be things I need to just be with and not complain about. So I think I'm good at complaining. So
Good. Well, you're learning to come into existence as something that isn't a complaint, right? You're coming into existence as a discovery, as a possibility. So you're right here, right now, Claudine, with the possibility. And of course, you've been here with the whole program as well. Well, nothing more than that. A step into the light. And why is it easier for you? It's because all this is coming through the filter of the mind. It's coming through the senses, coming through the eyes, it's coming through the ears, and that's where your trauma lies. It lies in the mental structure, and therefore it's not seems as safe or intimate or secure.
Yeah.
But when you're with me physically, another vibration is being broadcast. In fact, one is being broadcast now, but I believe your systems may be less familiar with trusting that. But it's not still, that's what brought you forward to talk again. It's brought forward, even though I'm not physically with you, you've come forward again. So what is this that comes forward is something more than just the fear or the hesitancy or the reserve that comes with the mind and senses, but something else. So that's also there. Toning into that.
It seems like whenever I'm been on these online satsangs, that it always ends up feeling it in my second chakra in the womb. And I've been with that a lot, but it's still there. And
Whatever's there in the second chakra, it's a sign of something awakening in your body. It's a sign of something opening up. So there's your territory. What's the second chakra feeling like? What's there? What's the sensation? What's the vibration? Is it contraction? Is it painful? Is it pleasurable? Does it have a more particular location? Does it move when I pay attention to it?
It's difficult to pinpoint because it's not something I can meditate on very easily, because it happens when I'm with you rather than when I'm by myself. Although it's also been happening for about 20 years, so it's just I don't know whether there's...
Well, is it connected to your fourth chakra?
I don't know.
All right. Because, the second chakra and the fourth chakra are connected. So there could be an opening that's trying to happen out of our relationship that's helping something to try to awaken in you that allows you to be in relationship with me beyond the physical in an intimate way, which does happen. It's a natural unfolding of the Kundalini awakening when it happens, where the sexual energy component starts awakening and moving along with the devotion. So then you find what's there. If your diaphragm just got activated, or if there's something else that's occurring. That's the opportunities that are coming forward, Claudine. Because these frequencies are not bound by space or time or the five senses. They are vibrational transmission. Your body's being affected by it right now because I can feel it.
Yeah.
Now, you may not be able to yet, but it means your body's trying to get your attention in those areas. You said the belly, the womb, I can feel that.
Yes.
Yes. And I can feel kind of an excitement going up from there.
Yes, then it goes up to there. It jumps around.
Yes, that's right. So I'm feeling you. You're now understanding that I'm experiencing what you're experiencing. And there's an exchange, a transmission. As I speak to it, I'm pointing to it, you're discovering what's actually happening. So we're not bound by space and time. I'm intimate as the skin of your body. I'm intimate as your body itself. I am with all of that you are, not just your consciousness. Embodiment, waking up matter, bringing matter into the process of its own evolution by injecting spirit, by the vibration of spirit. This is how you become a transmuted expression of the world mother.
You hadn't thought of pouncing on people rather than us coming forward, have you?
What's that?
I said, sometimes it seems it would be easier if you pounced on people rather than us having to come forward.
No, not this time. I got you in my snare. I've got attention on you. Now I can do a little work on you. I got to get you pinned down long enough so I can do some work on you. There you go. You're getting more of your money's worth here. All right, my dear. It's delightful to be with you. Namaste.
Next is Philip.
Philip. Namaste.
Namaste. I wanted to express my gratitude to Sat Das. The sharing about the challenges of the body. And I really feel that. And it was very helpful to hear your expression. And Sat Shree, I want to express my gratitude for these revelations of the later chapters. I want to share something happened this morning for me, within me, was the sensing of chapter 13, the truth, the realness of the field of my body, and being with that, and then experiencing myself as the knower of the field. That felt very powerful, and I transitioned from that into action, which is morning exercises for my body, and having a feeling of the field was there and stayed there, even in the actions of exercises to assist the energies of my body. Perfect. So I've found really a lot of value in that. I want to express my gratitude and the sense of looking forward to these later chapters. I really moved by your sharing of those chapters today.
All right, very well. Thank you, Philip. Just keep showing up, and you'll be taken on the ride with everyone else. All right, so we're
and I'm finding a willingness to be a joker. The joke.
Yeah,
I am the joke, and that's okay.
No, that's a good way to hold it. You know, perfect. Thank you. Namaste. All right. So, anything you want like to say?
Yes, I will attempt the impossible, which is to try to hold this experience, which is everything, which is therefore impossible in a sense to articulate. Just that in the course of these 7 revelations, including the Avatar talk, I feel us in the last verses of the Gita right now, that this conversation has been thrilling and mystic and wonderful, that it's opened the mysteries of creation. And it's like is said here, I have heard this thrilling and mystic conversation between Sat, Shree, and the 70 Arjunas in this course. By the grace of Vyasa, I have heard this supreme secret gospel from Sri Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, while he was imparting this to Arjuna before my eyes. And just I always come back to this, the last verse, just the benediction and the deep wellspring of confidence. Where there is Sri Krishna, the supreme Lord of Yoga, and Arjuna, the mighty wielder of the bow, there shall be goodness, victory, glory, and Dharma. This is my firm conviction. I know each of these talks opens up a process that is never ending. That's for the rest of our lives. Each is a yoga, manifestation, devotion, meeting darkness, embodiment, purpose in the peril, and transformation. So it's just a supreme blessing to have been here and to have received the wisdom from you, Shree. And I feel the only true way to say thank you is for me and each of us to make our heartfelt, total commitment each day to live the Dharma and to be the Dharma and to love the Dharma, such that in time, by the grace of God and the Guru and by dint of our own effort, we come to what you are. And there's no greater aspiration in my heart than to provide the same service that you're providing to me every single day of my life to other beings. And to be able to lift something of the burden that you have carried by yourself, unspeakably so, for more than 20 years now. So it's in that, it's in just the true wish to be of service and to honor you.
And you're that demonstration that you serve me best by becoming me. I could not tell any difference between us. All right, let there be no difference. May we all be that. All right, let's spend the next 5 minutes in silence to let us bring in what has yet to fully manifest. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri. All glory to the Supreme. May truth manifest. Namaste.
Namaste.
And thank you all.
Mm.